Hello and welcome to 10,000 Stitches Podcast, a knitting podcast all about making socks. This is episode 3, and so that I don't forget, because I will forget otherwise, this is being recorded on Tuesday, December 22nd, and it will be uploaded and posted to YouTube on Wednesday, December 3rd. My name is Andy, and I'm glad that you've decided to join me to chit-chat about socks this week. If you are coming back from my first 2 episodes, thanks for coming back. And if you're new, awesome. This is as great of a place to start as any. Let's see where you can find me. This will obviously depend on where you're watching this, but you can find me on YouTube as 10,000 Stitches Podcast. You can find me on... let's see, if you want to friend me on Instagram or Ravelry or Twitter, although I'm not very active on Twitter, I'm on all of those as Purlbug, P-U-R-L-B-U-G. And there is a group for this podcast on Ravelry, the 10,000 Stitches podcast group or whatever. I'll make sure to link it. And then I have a blog at thepurlbug, ThePurlbug.com. And depending on where you are will determine where things are linked. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I will have a link down in the description box to the blog post that corresponds to this episode. And that's where you will find links to any relevant patterns, shops that I talk about, other podcasts, anything, any relevant links will be in that blog post, not underneath the video on YouTube because that just gets cluttery. I do believe, though, that I put a link to the podcast group on Ravelry in the description box on YouTube. So those should be the only 2 links on YouTube. If you're watching this on the blog, then, of course, down below there'll be links to everything relevant, and I believe also to the podcast group on Ravelry. And if you're watching this on Ravelry, then I will have links down below to, again, anything relevant. And I think there's a link to the blog and stuff in the description of the group. So that should be it. Like I said, if you want to find me, feel free to find me as Purlbug on Instagram or Ravelry. You can friend me on either of those. You can feel free to send me messages or anything like that. There's also a questions, comments, concerns thread on the Ravelry group. So if you have any questions you'd like to ask that you feel comfortable either asking for me to answer on that thread or on the podcast, you can do that there. Or if you have more of a not so public question, or if you just want to get in contact with me in a not so public way, like I said, you can send me direct messages everywhere, or you can go to the blog, thepurlbug.com, and in the upper right corner, I would gesture to where I think it is, but because the video flips everything, I have no idea which side it's on. But it's in the upper right corner of the screen. There should be a little heading that says contact. You can click on that, and that brings you to a page where you can fill out a contact form. And I believe you just need a name, an email address, and then whatever you want your message to be. And that sends it directly to my email. So I get an email saying, so-and-so sent you a message, and blah, blah, blah. And then I can email you back. So we can just then communicate via email. And that's a good way if you have maybe a longer message or, something more personal. That works too. I also on that page have the address for my P.O. box here in Richmond. So if you want to send me snail mail, I love getting snail mail, and I will write back. So yeah, or even just postcards. I love getting postcards. But anyway, so there's a lot of ways to contact me. Hopefully one of those works in case you need to get a hold of me. Okay, so let's see. So on the in the notes for today, I'm going to talk about my finished objects. I'm going to talk about my works in progress, things coming up next / new stuff because those two kind of mix together. I'm going to talk a little bit about a new to me kind of knitting technique pattern thing. And then I want to talk about the socks that I've made so far this year because the holidays are coming up, and so some of these socks, this will be the last time I have to show them because I will be giving them as gifts. So I for sure want to just recap those, the gift socks that I've made, and then I think I'm also going to recap the other socks that I've made now, because next week's podcast is going to be a little funky with the holidays and travel and stuff, so I just want to get that out of the way now. And then at the end, I'm going to, just chit-chat a little bit. I took a trip this last week and all of that, so it'll be more personal stuff at the end. So if you don't want to hear about that, I'll keep it to the end so you can just listen to the knitting and then be gone. So yeah. Okay, so finished objects. I believe last week, these were still a work in progress. These are my Forest for the Trees socks. And I called them that because they have this little like tree lace kind of detailing here. And then, so these are made with Patton's Croy. The main color is flax, and then the heels and toes are done in the Croy FX Cascade colors. No, clover colors. Sorry, Cascade is the blue ones. This is the clover colors, and these are like the greens and oranges and that kind of stuff. So these were knit on size 1, 2.25 millimeter needles. Size 1, which are 2.25 millimeter needles. 64 stitches. I think I mentioned last week that these are going to be a gift for a friend of mine, my bestie back in Minnesota. So I'm pretty excited. I'm sure she's going to love them. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of those, pretty happy. I think last week I had one sock done and I had already done the top part of the next one, so these were finished quite a while ago. Especially because I recorded, ahead of time last week, and I'm recording a little bit later than I normally would this week because I wanted to try and make as much progress on some of my other socks before I showed you, since they're gift socks and I may never get a chance to show the finished object otherwise. So these are finished object number 1. And then these ones are ones that were kind of a coming up. Hang on, I'm going to edit something out. Hello? Congratulations. You've been selected to receive a free cruise. Maybe I won't edit that out. Apparently I want a free cruise to the Bahamas. I hate that. I thought with cell phones they weren't supposed to be able to call you for that kind of stuff, and I get calls all the time now for like stupid telemarketers on my cell phone. Anyway, so I think last time I talked, these were kind of a coming up. They hadn't even been started yet, and then I started them. So, oh wait, let me go in chronological order. Okay, so this was actually done before the next thing I want to talk about. So this is a sort of half object slash work in progress, but I'm going to show it as a finished object because it's a completed sock. So this is the first of my inversible socks, and basically the whole gimmick with these is you knit the main part in one yarn and then the heels and toes in another, and then you flip it for the other sock. So like for this, the main part is in this kind of blue and green and yellow color, and then the heels and toes are in pink. So then the next one will be the main part in pink and then the heels and toes in these highlighter colors. I'm actually not sure that I'm gonna knit a mate to this one, just because I'm not crazy about it. Like this was the sock that did not want to be knit. I started this sock so many times and it just did not want to work. So I finally finished it. It's a 64 stitch sock, again knit on size 1s, which are 2.25 millimeter needles. Heel flap and gusset. I do my gusset decreases underneath the heel rather than kind of along the sides like most people do, because I find that like cups my heel a little bit better and improves the fit. And then I just did a little bit of ribbing underneath the arch, and then kind of a classic sort of roundy sort of toe. I don't know that I'm going to knit the mate to this one because I just am not really happy with it. It's a little bit small. I mean, it'll fit. I have the weird thing where like my right foot is maybe a 1/4 inch bigger than my left foot. So it fits my left foot. It fits my smaller foot. So that's fine. I can wear it. It's a little snug. But I have another half pair, like another pair that I started and only got one sock through and just never made the other one. So I have an extra sock anyway, so I think this will just be the mate to that other sock. So I'm going to call this a finished object for now because I don't intend to knit the other one. So yeah, so that's that. And then, okay, so now onto the other ones. So these ones were knit, I think I just finished them yesterday. I can't think of when I started. I suppose if I look at a calendar, I can think of when I started. So I started these on Friday the 18th, I think, and then I finished them yesterday. Yeah, I think so. So these are socks, a pair of gift socks for Wesley's mother. These are made out of the Regia Arn and Carlos Do I have the yarn band? I don't have the yarn band anymore. I forget what the colorway is, but it's like the Orchard colorway. It's like 3764 or something, but you can see it's kind of oranges and reds and creams and grays and a little bit of blue. And I thought she would really like them. So these are, yeah, so these are for Wesley's mother. She has wide but short feet. So you can see it's not a very long foot on it. So these were made top down. I cast on 80 stitches because she has a problem with like socks being too tight around her like calves and stuff, and so kind of like squeezing too tight. So I cast on 80 stitches and did 20 rows of 2x2 rib, and then I decreased to 72 once I was done with the ribbing. And then I think I worked another 50 rows for the leg, did a heel, and then I think the foot was like 55 rows, and then I did a little bit squarer toe because her toes are a little bit more square than mine are. So yeah, so that's that. These are done. They haven't been washed or anything yet, but I don't think I'm gonna have time to soak them and wash them and have them dry. But I'm pretty impressed with myself because they actually match. The stripes actually match. I am not very good at getting stripes to match, so I was pretty proud of this. And I did make a boopsie on it, and I don't know if I'll be able to show it very well. I'm trying to figure out, oh, there it is. So this was the first sock that I did, right? I pulled the yarn out, I made a note of where I kind of, cut it in the striping pattern. So I'd be able to do the same thing with the second one, finish this sock. So then with this sock, I, pulled the yarn out till I hit the same place in the striping pattern, which thankfully wasn't very much. And then I kind of measured out the same amount of yarn that I used to cast on the other one. And then for whatever reason, instead of tying a slip knot, I took my scissors and I cut the yarn. And I was like, why did I do that? Why? Why did I do that? So I then had to knot the yarn so that I could still, I don't know if you can see it. You can just see the little bit of fuzzy right there. This was my first time using a magic knot, I think. So I just knotted the yarn and cut the ends really close and cast on. And it turned out to work out fine. So I'm glad that I did it and took the trouble to make sure that the stripes matched. But I hate making matching striped socks for people because I don't care. Like, I really don't care. And I know that, like, my mother wouldn't care. And I'm sure that Wesley's mother wouldn't care either. I'm sure she just will appreciate the hand knit socks. But oh my gosh, exhausting. And I think I didn't mention, these have the Fish Lips Kiss heel on it, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. So Fish Lips Kiss heel, my first time ever doing it. I like it. It worked well. So yeah, so that's those. And then that's it for my finished objects. So then my work in progress, sorry, I'm just flipping my little planner to the right like month so that if I need to look at dates, I can do that. Okay, so that's it for finished objects. So then my work in progress, I have one currently, which is a pair of socks for Wesley's father, which I'm pretty sure I'm not going to finish before Christmas. I will be happy if I get one of them finished, because I will show you where I am on it. So this is where I am on it. I just did the heel, again another Fish Lips Kiss heel, because I'm loving it, and I'll talk about that later. And I'm about an inch into the leg. So yeah, so these are just plain vanilla socks. His father has the same length of foot that I do, which is pretty long. Like, we both have 26 centimeter feet. So that's a lot of foot. And apparently he likes to wear his socks pretty tall. So that's gonna be a lot of leg. And I'm knitting this on, so this is a 72 stitch sock, and I'm knitting this on size zeros, which are killing my hands. This is the first time I've ever knit on my size zeros, and they're really small, and I feel like these ones the needles on these ones aren't as long as like the needles on my Addies that I was used to, like the needle part, so I feel like it hurts my hands a little bit more, and I'm just, and I'm dropping stitches like I have never done before, just dropping stitches like crazy. So, but I think it's worth it because like the fabric that this is producing is really nice and sturdy and tough, and so I like the fabric that it's producing, and I think it's going to be worth it. So yeah, so yeah, I will be happy if I get one of these finished. But the really cool thing, so I had started doing these, I'm kind of all over the place with this. I had started doing these 2 at a time, toe up. And I actually got past, you know, the toe increases, probably about an inch into each sock. And then I quit doing it two at a time because it was just, I don't know if it's because the needles are too small or if it's just because I'm under a deadline and I know I can knit pretty fast with just one at a time. But I was just riding the struggle bus with it and I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm just gonna do it one at a time. And at least that way I'll have one for sure done that I can give him and I'll be like, I'll have the other one done soon and I'll mail it to you. But anyway, I was doing these toe up and I actually managed to find a way to do my toe increases so that it looks like it's a top-down toe, right? Like that looks just kind of like the decreases on a normal top-down toe. So I am pretty proud of that because I've never really liked the way that toe up increases look with the like knit one front and back. So this doesn't look like that, so yay. Yeah, so this kind of gets into my new stuff, so I guess I will launch into that. So new stuff. I got 2 new balls of yarn when we were in DC, and I will talk more about my trip to the yarn shop at the end during the personal chit chat stuff. But the yarn shop that we went to was called Looped Yarn Works, and if they have a website, I'll make sure to link it in the notes. It's off of DuPont Circle in DC, so if you are in DC and you want to check it out, and you're traveling on the metro, if you take the, I think, red line to the DuPont Circle station, you get up out of the metro, and then it's just a little bit down the street. I can't think of which street it's down, but it's kind of in that general area. It's within easy walking distance of the metro. So yeah, pretty easy to get to. I bought 2 balls of yarn there. One of them is the yarn that I'm using to knit this sock, so you can kind of see what it looks like knitted up. It's one of the Regia Perfect yarns. And again, let's see, these are kind of what it's supposed to look like. This, does it tell me the colorway? The color is 07122. Super descriptive. But basically the way that this works, and I kind of wish I had left this in the ball to show you, but at the same time I regret nothing because I needed to get it started. But you can kind of see, so they give you these directions on the inside, and it's basically made so that you can knit 2 perfectly matching socks. So you can kind of see in these pictures, there's this yellow yarn that comes in the ball. And so you start, and it's wound properly to be a center pull ball, so it easily pulls out from the center. So you start with some yellow yarn and you pull that out from the center, and then when you get to the end of that yellow yarn, you cut that and you start knitting your sock. And you knit your sock, and they kind of expect you to knit your sock top down. Doesn't really matter, you can knit it toe up too. But it kind of, you know, does its thing. You knit your sock, you bind off, and you cut your yarn, and then you pull the rest of the yarn out until you hit yellow yarn again. And then you pull all of that yellow yarn out, you cut it when you get to the end, and then you start your next sock, and then your socks will match perfectly. The colorways the stripes and everything should match 100% perfectly. So because I thought I was gonna be doing them 2 at a time, I actually wound it up into 2 balls so that I could pull from each ball. So, you know, yeah, I kind of cheated. But anyway, that's fine. But yeah, I mean, it really does follow itself pretty nicely. And I'm sorry that the light keeps shifting. It's really kind of cloudy and dreary here today, and I don't have any lights in the room on, so I'm just, whatever the natural light is doing, that's what it's doing. But anyway, so you get these 2 balls. So it's really nice if you want to knit your socks 2 at a time because it's easy to divide them up into 2 perfectly matched balls without needing a scale. So yeah, so you get that, but you also wind up with all of this yellow yarn, and there's a lot of yellow yarn. And because I don't have a scale, like I couldn't really like measure how much yellow yarn there was, but I had enough to knit this entire heel in yellow because I was like, well, you know, that'll be a nice little pop of color, but no one will ever see it, so you know, it's not like it will bother him. So I knit this heel in yellow, and then I still had this much more yellow, and I think this was the yellow that was between the two socks, because there was some at the beginning, and then there's the first sock worth of yarn, and then I think there was this, and then the second sock worth of yarn, and then there was a little bit of yellow on the very outside. So this is like definitely enough to make a heel out of, probably a heel and a toe, I would say. So there's a lot of yellow, and if it's only 100 grams total, I mean, granted, these aren't a lot, but I feel like you're getting a little cheated out of the yarn. But, you know, like I said, I'm using it, so I don't even care. But yeah, so that's that, and it's working up really nicely. So this is it's a 75% virgin wool, 25% polyamide, and this cost me $16.75 at the Looped Yarn Works. And this is not yet going into my budget for my 50 socks in 2016 because it was not meant to be part of that project. So yeah, so this was that. Then my other ball of yarn that I bought is going into my budget for 2016 because this will be my first pair of socks that I knit in January. And it is from the Knitted Wit. This again came from Looped Yarn Works. Knitted Wit on their Victory sock, which is an 80/20 superwash merino nylon, 4 ounces, 420 yards, and the colorway is Carbon. And as you can see, it costs $25, so it's a little bit more than I would like to spend, but these are going to be socks for Wesley. So this is what the yarn looks like. Let me see if I can get it so that it will catch the light. It's showing up really purple. It's not that purple. I don't know. The light is not great. So it's a really dark gray, and it's a slightly tonal gray. Like there's little bits that are lighter than others. You can kind of see that. I mean, the color isn't coming in true. Like I said, it's showing up a little purpley, but you can definitely see that there's some parts that are lighter than others. So I think that will be really interesting. It's soft. I don't know. It's the softest yarn I've ever used for socks. I think I said this. These are going to be for Wesley. So like I said, it cost a little bit more than I maybe would have preferred, but I grabbed, you know, a bunch of skeins of kind of gray, different grays and stuff, and I brought them over to him and I told him to pick which one he wanted, and he picked this one. So these are going to be socks for him, and these will be my first socks for 2016. So yeah, that's 25 bucks out of my budget. Done. So yeah, so that's that. Yeah, cool. And I will link, I guess Knitted Wit has a website, so I will link to their website in the notes. Yeah, so that's new stuff. And yeah, next up, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Fish Lips Kiss heel. So this is a new to me technique. It's not new because a ton of knitters already use it. But it's new to me, and I finally just decided to jump on the bandwagon and see how it was. So I downloaded the pattern the other day, I think on Friday. I downloaded the pattern, took a read through it. I mean, it is long. Like, there's a lot to it. The actual pattern for the heel itself. Okay, no, I should back up. Okay, if you don't know what the Fish Lips Kiss heel is, the Fish Lips Kiss heel is basically a new, as much as anything in knitting can be new. It's a new way of doing short row heels that doesn't involve wraps and turns. Yeah, it's a much easier way of doing short row heels. And I've done the traditional wrap and turn short row heels and I hate them. But I like doing short row heels because, you know, there's no heel flap and gusset, there's no decreasing or anything like that. It's, you know, I like doing short row heels, but I don't like the traditional way of doing short row heels with the wraps and turns. So that's why I was interested in this. So yeah, so that's that. And the pattern is $1 on Ravelry, and of course I'll link it in the notes. And it's a new way of doing it, and the pattern itself that you get is like a mini ebook, like it's like 16 pages, but the actual like construction part for the heel is only like 3 pages worth, and it has pictures and stuff. So like you could probably condense it down to a page and that's it. And once you do it, you memorize it. So like I already have it memorized and I've done it only 3 times, so I will never need to look at the pattern again. But yeah, like I said, it's $1. It's from, I think, Sock Therapist, I think. I apologize if that's wrong. Like I said, I'll for sure make sure to link it in the notes. But yeah, so it's a new way to do short row heels. I'm trying to think of what else I wanted to say about it. So basically the way that it does it is it eliminates the wraps and turns by using this twin knit stitch and twin purl stitch. Which I really like, and there's actually free videos on YouTube on how to do them. If you just search, I think, twin knit stitch and twin purl stitch, you can find videos on how to do them from the creator of this pattern and this method. So, you know, you can use it just for regular short rows, and I probably will from now on because I don't like wraps and turns. but it's, you know, they're pretty easy once you get the hang of it, and it's an easy way to do a short row heel, and I really like it. And I'm probably going to use it as my standard heel from now on because it's so much easier to do. And I think it's supposed to mimic commercial short row heels, and that's part of why the pattern is so long, is because the author is talking about like why commercial socks fit everyone and why hand knit socks are so fussy, and this, I guess this heel is supposed to kind of solve that discrepancy. I'm not entirely sure. I actually haven't made a pair for myself using this method. I've only made them for other people, and of course they haven't tried them on yet, so I might be prematurely getting excited about it. But I can tell you that in terms of working the heel, it's so much easier. And I've actually even done, before I bought the pattern, I worked a couple of heels just using the twin knit stitch and twin purl stitch in place of the wrap and turn in like a traditional short row heel. Because the Fish Lips Kiss heel isn't quite that. There's a few extra steps that are in it. But if you just sub those into like a traditional short row heel, that works too. So yeah, it's highly recommended. I definitely recommend checking it out. And like I said, it's much easier to work than anything else I've ever done. So from that perspective, that's probably going to be my go-to, unless it turns out that it really doesn't fit or something like that. But yeah, so that's that. Fish Lips Kiss heel. Yay. So yeah, then I wanted to talk briefly about the socks that I've made this year and the socks that I have made as gifts, because yeah, some of these you may never see again because I'm going home for the holidays and giving them away, and then they'll be gone. So let's start first with socks that I made prior to starting this podcast that you've never seen before. And I actually have them. I just washed all of my socks, not yesterday, but the day before. It takes hand knit socks forever to air dry. I was washing them in the machine until I wound up with a decent amount, you know, to justify washing them by hand. And I have a little like foldy down like laundry dryer rack that I hang on my closet door, which I'm pointing to right now, but you can't see because it's off screen. And I hang them on there, and it's like right below the vent for the air vent. But even still, like they take 2 or 3 days to dry. And these ones, like this time I put them in the dryer for like 30 minutes right after I washed them to kind of speed up the process. They still took forever. But anyway, so I'm going to show these in roughly chronological order. I don't exactly remember, but bear in mind that all these have been knitted since August. And I think really since like October probably, but all these have been knit since I moved here in August. So the first pair that I knit was this pair. So these are knit out of Patons Croix FX. The bottom one in the blue is the Cascade colors, and the top one is the Clover colors, and the heels and toes are in flax. These were knit toe up, 64 stitches with a 6x2 garter rib with an afterthought heel. So these were my first afterthought heel. They were my first sock in a long time. And I really like them, and they still fit really well, and I like them a lot. And yeah, so that's those two. My second pair is actually a pair that I'm wearing, so I guess you will see them on my feet. So these ones are again made out of Patons Croix. Here's the first one. So this one is the Sing in the Blues stripes, and again, afterthought heel and toe in flax, toe up 64 stitch sock. So this one's Sing in the Blue stripes, and then I think this is the gray brown marl or something like that. That one. And the stitch pattern on the top of these, I was attempting to replicate a sweater that Wesley has, because it has this really nice, interesting nubbly stitch pattern. So let me see if I can get that close enough for you to see it. It's basically row 1 is purl, and then row 2 is purl 1, knit 1 through the back loop, repeat to the end. So it's kind of a broken purled rib, I guess. And I really like it. It produces a really nice nubby sort of pattern, and I like that. So yeah, so that's those. And then pair number 3, I'm missing one of them, but that's, I suppose I can go grab it. I'll be right back. Oop. Oop. Okay, pair number 3. Let's see if I can delicately get back onto the bed without having my skirt go all over the place. Pair number 3 was a pair of top-down socks, again knit in Patton's Croy. One of them is in the Route 66, so this is a kind of normal heel flap and gusset construction with a sort of rounded pointy toe. So this one is in the Route 66, and then this is the same sort of construction, but this is in the, I think, blue striped rag. But again, the same sort of thing. These are my first top-down socks, oh my gosh, I think since the first sock that I knit ever. The first sock that I ever tried to knit, I knit top-down, and then I failed miserably when I got to the toe because I couldn't do Kitchener stitch. So then I was like, I don't want to do top-down socks. So then I basically did only toe-up socks until this pair. But having done, you know, the afterthought heel and stuff on these, I had to learn Kitchener stitch. So then I was like, oh, well, I can do top-down socks now. These ones are okay. I mean, I like this one. This one, I feel like the yarn is a lot thinner, and so it just is kind of a shapeless sock. And all of these socks that I'm showing you were knit on my Addy sock, turbo sock, whatever, the 2.5 millimeter needles, that says it's a size 1, but it's a size 1.5. Okay, so that's that. And then, let's see, pair number 4, I guess? 4? I think are these shorty socks. So these were based on a pattern by Pearl Soho or Pearl B or whatever it is. And I forget, stripy sporty socks or stripy ped socks, whatever. It's just, you basically knit 5 rows in a 1x1 rib, and then you knit 5 rows plain, and then you do the heel flap and gusset, and then just the foot. So these were made with Patton's Croy FX Cascade colors. These are probably my least favorite sock because I don't know, I really wish that this little cuff part I would have done higher because they just feel like they don't grip my foot very well, so they feel very loose. But I mean, I like them, and they're nice because they're a little bit looser. Like, I can put them on over a pair of tights if I'm just going to be around the house and I want to wear them over a pair of tights. They work really well for that, or if I just want to wear a pair of socks to bed or something, they work fine. But they're certainly not my favorite pair, and I can't really wear them in shoes because they're kind of loose. So, yeah. And then I want to say pair number 5, I think is what I'm on. I think is these. These are Patton's Croy FX cameo colors, so it's kind of like purples and pinks and blues, lilacs. And these were knit, again, top down, and they're basically a vanilla sock with a heel flap and gusset, except they have this cable that runs down the back into the heel. Just a little bit of detailing. I really liked it. And I think I kind of took the inspiration for this cable, again, from Pearl B, Pearl Soho, whatever. They're little cable knee-highs, which I plan to knit in 2016. But yeah, just a very simple kind of 2x2 cable. And I made sure to mirror it. Let's see if I can get this other one on. I made sure to mirror it on each one because my brain has to be symmetrical like that. So I don't like things that aren't symmetrical. So yeah, and these are, I think, one of my favorite pairs of socks. I really like these ones. I like the colors. Even though I'm not big into pink, I really like these ones, and I like the way they fit. And I like the little cables because they're just like that cute little touch. So yeah, so that's those. And then pair 6 or whatever is, I think, these. So these are the broken linen stitch socks. And basically you do linen stitch, which is, it's a 2-row pattern, a stitch pattern. It's knit 1, slip 1 with yarn in front, knit 1, slip 1 with yarn, and then the other row you just do it offset. So you slip 1 with yarn in front, knit 1, and it produces a really dense fabric. So broken linen stitch, you just add a row of knitting in between those, and I'll link to the pattern for these. But these, again, were top down, this broken linen stitch, heel flap and gusset. Yeah. And these are in the Patton's Croy FX Clover colors, and I really love these. These are probably tied with the previous ones as my favorite pair of socks because they're really nice and thick and squishy, and I love the colors. And yeah, I just love everything about them. And I actually really enjoy, of course my camera isn't going to focus because it's just a webcam, but you know, it produces this really nice kind of nubby pattern on the front, but then on the inside it also produces this really cool sort of like a diamondy sort of pattern, which I really like. So I'd like to maybe do a pair of socks sometime this next year that use this broken linen stitch but inside out, because I think it's such a cool pattern. So yeah, so that's those. And then I had mentioned that I had a lonely sock that didn't have a mate because I kind of stopped it halfway through the pattern. That's this one. So this one is the My Cup of Tea socks, which has this really pretty stitch pattern on it. Hang on, why don't I put this on the front so that I don't have to bend at such an awkward angle. So it's got this really pretty stitch pattern, and I would probably make these again, but with an easier, you know, toe and stuff, or heel. But yeah, I really like it. These are made with Patons Kroy flax, and then the heel and toe were done in the Patons Kroy FX Cascade colors. So yeah, and this one again, this was the first time I did the gusset decreases along the bottom of the foot, so it kind of looks like that. It creates this sort of triangle on the bottom of the foot, which looks a little goofy like this, like it makes it look really goofy, but when you wear it, it wears so much better, I think. It really like just kind of hugs the bottom of your heel, and I think it just wears really well. So yeah, so that's that lonely sock. So that's why another lonely sock isn't a big deal. And then I guess this was the last pair of socks that I knit for myself before I really got into holiday knitting. And these are another pair of toe up Afterthought heel socks. So Afterthought heel done in Patons Kroy flax. The rest of it is Patons Kroy Route 66. And these are the blueberry waffle socks, which I really like. I really like the blueberry waffle pattern. I think it's on my list of socks to knit for January. It's like the second pattern that I'm going to be using, but it creates this really nice waffly sort of pattern, and I really like it. And especially because I think that for whatever reason the Route 66 is a very thick kind of sock yarn, so it just makes them kind of nice squishy boot socks. So yeah, they are striped but they don't match. And yeah, and then I got started into knitting holiday socks and things. So I guess next I will talk about those. But that's all the socks that I knit for myself in 2015. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8, including the pair that I'm wearing. So that's 8 pairs of socks for myself. And then these socks that I've knit for other people. And of course I've shown these, so I won't talk too much about these, but these are the pair that I knit for my mother's boyfriend. These were knit out of Opal Classics Luxurious, I think. It's kind of this like navy and cream. These were a 72 stitch sock with just a sort of garter panel down the top of the foot. Afterthought heel, yeah, kind of a shorty-er sock, not a super long leg on it. And then these ones I knit for my mother. These ones are using the Nutkin pattern, but mirrored across the front, made with the opal, something about a parrot, I don't know. And this was one of the heels that I did as a short row heel, but using those twin knit stitches and twin purl stitches instead of the traditional wraps and turns, so you can kind of see how that turned out. And let me see, I can kind of compare it to... So this is the just subbing in the twin knit stitches and the twin purl stitches for the traditional sort of wraps and turns, and then this is what the Fish Lips Kiss heel looks like. So you can see they don't look quite the same. There is a little bit of difference, but even if you just sub in those stitches on a traditional wrap and turn short row heel, works great. So yeah, so that's that for my mother. And then this pair of socks was a mistake pair. I knit them entirely continental, and because I can't control my gauge or my tension continental, they turned out gigantic. But these are Patons Kroy Singing the Blues stripes. This was a 64 stitch sock, if you can believe it, knit on size 2.5 millimeter needles. Again with that short row kind of heel, and these are huge, so these are going to be for my mother's boyfriend, again, just because they are way too big. And they might even be too big for him, I don't know. They turned out very loose because, like I said, I can't control my tension when I knit continental. But yeah, so that's those. And then I guess I already showed these. So then there's the Forest for the Trees socks, and then the socks for Wesley's mother, and then the socks for Wesley's father that are being knit right now. So that is, what did I say, 8 socks for me, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pairs of Christmas gift socks. So that's 14. Does that sound right? 14 pairs total. So if I can crank out 14 pairs before the end of the year, if I can finish the ones for Wesley's father, there'll be 14 pairs in 2015, in like the last third of 2015. So I'd say that bodes well for next year, but you know, we'll see. So yeah, let's see, anything else I wanted to talk about before I wrap up the knitting part? So next week, I will talk a little bit more about specifics for next year, in terms of the project and everything, the 50 pairs of socks in 2016. What I will tell you right now is that, and I forget if I mentioned this last week, but so I'm going to divide it up into different categories throughout the year. So like it's going to be first socks that like focus on ribbing. So like any interesting patterns that come into them, it's entirely just done by different rib patterns. And then I'm going to do ribbing, and then I'm not in no particular order. I'm also going to do cables, lace, color work, like stranded knitting, construction, like interesting construction techniques, like starting with the heel or something like that. Interesting construction techniques, and then yarn enhancing patterns. So patterns that are meant to really bring out the best in maybe like an indie dyed yarn or something like that. So there'll be 6 different categories, and so every 2 months I'll be focusing on a different characteristic of sock knitting, and I will be doing knit-alongs to go along with that. And I haven't quite finalized all of that details yet, so I will talk more about that next week when I've had more time to ponder on it. But there will be basically bi-monthly knit-alongs. So I figure that's plenty of time if you just want to make a pair of slacks much slower than me, you know, because I'm shooting for 1 pair a week. But yeah, I figure that gives people plenty of time to knit a pair of socks, focusing on a specific design element, and there will be some sort of prize, but like I said, that's part of what I haven't figured out yet. So yeah, I will talk more about that next week, and finalize all of that next week, because I figure even if I don't get it figured out until next week, that still gives me time to get things ready before the start of the year. So yeah, that's that. And if you want to see the patterns that I've chosen for the ribbing, I think you can look at people's cues on Ravelry, I think. I have all the patterns for the first 2 months in my queue already, in order that I'm going to be doing them on Ravelry. So if you want a sneak peek, you can check that out. If you can indeed look at that, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not good at the Ravelry. So yeah, so that's that. So expect more details on that next week. Okay, so I think that's it for the knitting stuff. So if that's all you're here for, thanks for joining me, and I will see you next week for more knitting stuff. If you care to hear about, you know, more chit-chatty sort of things, then stick around, because I'm going to talk about other stuff. So yeah, other stuff. I guess I'm trying to think. So the last time I recorded was on the 13th. So I last recorded on the 13th, and today is the 22nd. So it's been a decent amount of time since I last recorded. And a lot has happened, I guess. So I last recorded on the 13th, and then like Monday and Tuesday, we're sort of crazy around here because Wesley was finishing up his finals, you know, with stuff at school and stuff. So that was just, he was just, you know, brain dead after that, like just totally bonked. And it left me kind of that way too. I mean, even though I wasn't doing it, like it's still, you know, you still just pick up on that stress from like, you know, all of that. So we were both glad when he was done with that. So yeah, so he finished that on Tuesday, and his mother was going to be in Washington, D.C. for her work. And if you are brand new, we live in Richmond, Virginia. So Richmond is about, I think, 2 hours-ish south of D.C. So very easy to go between the two. I mean, it's not, it's a horrible drive, but easier, I guess. You know, we don't have to fly or anything. We can easily drive up to DC. So Wesley's mother was going to be in Virginia or in DC for her work. And, you know, she's like, well, hey, you guys should come on up. You know, you'll be done with finals and everything. I haven't started my job yet, which I'll talk a little bit about after this. So she's like, you guys should come on up and see me. She was pretty sure that, you know, her hotel was going to have like a pull-out sofa or something we could stay on. So we're like, sure, we'll see how it works out with our schedule. So it wound up being that we got a little bit later start than we wanted to on Tuesday, but we did head up to DC, which was why last week's episode got posted a little bit early, because it had already been recorded and everything. So I was like, well, I'd rather post it early and make sure that it gets out. So we went up to DC, had dinner with her Tuesday night. Then Wednesday, she had to go do work things, and so we went into the city and went and saw the Smithsonian Natural History Museum, which I've been in before, but I mean, it's so big that I could go back there probably every single time we go to DC and still see new things. But that was fun. I enjoy seeing like the dinosaurs, and we saw the Hope Diamond, which I'm never as impressed with in person. Like, of all the things at the museum, I just realized it was kind of like hunching over. Of all the things at the museum, I think the Hope Diamond is kind of I love the gemstones and all of that stuff, but the Hope Diamond itself, I'm kind of like, whatever. So yeah, so that was really fun, and then we got lunch at this really good place. It was I think it's Penn Quarter Sports Tavern. It's on, I don't know, it's by the Smithsonian, but Penn Quarter Sports Tavern, very good. Had delicious tater tots. So we got lunch there, and then we went and met up with Wesley's mother and went bowling with like her work group. They were doing like their like Christmas sort of thing, bowling. And she doesn't like bowling, so we were stepping in for her, you know. So we went and did that, and then we went and got dinner at this like steak place, which it was good, but I wasn't that impressed with it. Like it was good, but given the price, I would have liked it to be better, if that makes sense. But yeah, we did that, and then the next morning, Wesley's mother had to, you know, get on a plane to fly back to Minneapolis. So we had breakfast with her, and then she checked out of the hotel, and we left to go back into the city again. So but it was kind of rainy on Thursday, so this is the 17th of December. So it was kind of rainy and gross. But we're like, you know, whatever, we'll head into the city. So that's when we went to the yarn store. We went to a bookstore called, oh my gosh, let me see if I bought Wesley a book. It's called The Infinity Puzzle. So yeah, because we're nerds. So he's going to read this, and then I think I'm going to read it after he's done with it. But it's Quantum Field Theory and the Hunt for an Orderly Universe. And basically, if you care, it's because in quantum field theory, you wind up getting infinity where you shouldn't. And so I guess this is kind of, it's a pop science book. So it's not meant for like physicists necessarily. It's meant to be understandable to, I guess, anyone who wants to put in the effort to read it. But we like reading these kind of books sometimes. But anyway, we went to this Kramer Books. So yeah, so that's where we got that. Which again is right off of DuPont Circle. So if you go to the metro station, then you come up, this bookstore is right there, and then just a little further up the street is Looped Yarn Works. So that bookstore was okay. It's not as organized as I would have liked. I felt like there were just kind of these broad general categories, and then everything was just shoved in alphabetical order. So it was kind of hard to find, like, if you wanted like a specific thing. Like, I was of course looking for like knitting books, which they didn't have, but like it would have been in this general home sort of section where everything was just kind of bleh, barfed onto the shelf. So that was kind of annoying, but you know, whatever. I figured if I was dragging Wesley to a yarn store, he got to go to a bookstore. So yeah, so we went there, and then we went to the Looped Yarn Works, which was okay. I think more than anything else, it emphasized just how awkward I am with other knitters in real life. We got there kind of right as it opened, so there weren't a lot of other people there that didn't work there, and it's very nice. Like, it's it's a very nice, cozy atmosphere. I could see where it would be very nice to go in and sit down and knit for a little while. And they had lots of yarn. I didn't really look at any of the yarn other than the sock yarn, so I couldn't exactly tell you what they had. They had a lot of brands, and I'm not good at remembering that kind of stuff. So in terms of like sock yarn, I know they had Malabrigo. They had Malabrigo, they had this knitted wit, they had some Regia, and maybe some opal. They had Manos de Uruguay. They had Wandering Wool, which are beautiful yarns. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to think of what else they had. They had other stuff too. But the problem was, I felt like in terms of the selection of actual sock yarn, they didn't have a lot. And to me, you know, you have fingering weight yarn and then you have sock yarn, and those are two different things. You know, it's like, yes, most sock yarn is fingering weight yarn, but most fingering weight yarn is not sock yarn. So to me, sock yarn has to be something that's sturdy enough that I would actually make into socks. So to me, that means some sort of wool nylon blend. Even if it's only 10% nylon, it means a wool nylon blend. It does not mean MCN, so merino cashmere nylon. No, I'm not. Partly because that's so expensive. I'm not going to pay $50 to make that skein into a pair of socks. So no MCN, no 100% merino superwash, because that's just not going to hold up. And no other stuff. And it has to be machine washable. Even if I'm not going to machine wash my socks, I want sock yarn to be machine washable. So for me, that means some sort of wool nylon blend that's a superwash wool, machine washable. So in terms of that, they had very little. I think, you know, when I was trying to gather up stuff to show Wesley to pick out a pair of socks, they had maybe 4 that I went and showed him, and 2 of them were that Regia Perfect stuff. So they maybe had 3 different brands that were like what I would consider sturdy enough to make socks out of. Other than, I mean, the Wandering Wool is definitely sock yarn worthy, but because I think that's a 75-25, but that's expensive. Like that's like $40 a skein. So yeah. So would I go back there? I would. The staff was very nice, very helpful. I mean, I just had a hard time talking to them because, you know, I tend to be so focused and so singular in my knitting pursuit, and they're talking about like knitting sweaters and stuff, and you know, I don't know. I just had a hard time relating with them. But they were very nice, very helpful. There was actually a young lady, probably a little bit older than me, who came in while I was there, and she was looking for some yarn because she wanted to learn how to knit because she was going to like South Africa or Australia or something, and so it was going to be a long plane ride, so she wanted to make a scarf on the plane ride. And they were very helpful in showing her, like, you know, okay, here's a good yarn to start with, and here's the needles you need, and here's how you do this, and make sure you buy a darning needle and this and that. So they're very helpful, very nice. Would I go back there again? Yes, maybe. So it would definitely not be a place that I would go to buy, like, bulk buy sock yarn, because like I said, they just didn't have a lot of selection. But, and I think it was this Knitted Wit brand, I think they had some very, very beautiful yarns that I definitely would go back and get towards the end of my project next year when maybe I have a little bit more slosh money built up in my budget. Then I would go back and pick up some of those very beautiful yarns that they had. So it's not someplace that I would probably go back really soon. Not that I necessarily plan to be in DC again soon, but like, you know, we're thinking about maybe going up there in the spring to go see the cherry blossoms. I probably wouldn't go back at that point. I know that I will probably be back up in DC again in August because the country's biggest fountain pen show, which if you've watched before, my other half of my blog is about fountain pens and stuff like that, so that's the other thing I'm into. So they have the biggest fountain pen like convention in the country in DC every August. So I know for sure I'll be back up there in August. And at that point I might hit it up again because by then I'll be starting to look at some of those fancier yarns and stuff. So I would go back, but I certainly would only go back to like treat myself, not necessarily as like a place to like really get a lot of yarn. So yeah, so that was that. And then we came home on Thursday, and it, like I said, it was rainy and gross, so that was kind of a bleh car ride. I mean, we didn't have like a ton of traffic, but it was just ugh. And like, of course, you know, I'm using my GPS to get home because we don't necessarily know this area that well. And it's like saying, hey, you're coming up on an accident. So that was kind of a bummer, and like traffic was slowing down. So we got off onto a faster route, and then it turned out we actually knew where we were going once we were on that road. So that was really nice because we never had to like get back onto the interstate. Like we could just zip right home then. So that was nice. And then we got home and we were just totally pooped because we hadn't slept well in DC because we were sleeping on a sleeper sofa. So we were just pretty pooped, and then just took the weekend kind of easy. And well, no, we didn't actually. So then Friday we had a lot to go do because the university here shut down at the end of the day on Friday, December 18th. And then they're shut down like through the new year. So anything that had to get done Friday. Or else we maybe would have stayed in DC, like shelled out the cash for a hotel room for another night, and maybe stayed in DC for another day. But no, had to be back because there were things that had to get done on Friday. So like Wesley had to go deal with some things with his stuff, and I had to go and sign my contract. So it's legit. I totally have a job now. Like all the official stuff has come through. If you're new, I just got a new job as an instructor at the university here, so that's very exciting. And I'm going to be starting after the new year, and I signed my contract and did all of that stuff, so that's super cool. Although it was very weird because then I went back and like I went over and talked to like the department chair and stuff, and I was kind of like, yeah, so you know, I did all this stuff and all that, so I should be good to start after New Year's. And he's like, great. I was like, yeah, so when do you want me to come in and start? And he was like basically, when do you want my first day to be? Because technically I think I start January 1st, but like I said, the university shut down until a few days after that. So he's like, well, you know, before classes start. I was kind of like, oh, okay. You know, and I get that like academia is a little bit more like free about that kind of stuff, and like it's a little, I mean, he knows of course that I'm going to come in before classes start and all of that, and it's kind of dependent on like when people come back from their like holidays and stuff, but it's still kind of like, you know, I will appreciate the freedom later on. Like initially I want just a little bit more guidance, maybe, I don't know. So yeah, so whatever. I'm just gonna leave that till after the holidays because, you know, by now the university's shut down. So I'll show up the first day that it opens back up, and if anyone's there, then great, and if nobody's there, then great too. So, but yeah, it was really weird because we went and I got my like ID, and it like says staff on it instead of student, and that's so weird. But it's exciting, and I'm super excited to start work and all of that. So yay. So yeah, then, you know, we were trying to take it easy. Then Saturday we decided, no, we don't want to take it too easy. We're gonna go to the mall. And we only know about one mall here. I'm sure there's more, but the one that we know about is in Glen Allen, I think. It's like the Short Pump Mall, if anyone's from the Richmond area. And it's like an outdoor mall, and you know, we haven't really decorated or anything for Christmas, so we're like, let's go see Christmas decorations at the mall. So, you know, we're like, okay, let's pop up there. And Wesley wasn't feeling great, so I was doing the driving. And I'm not so great in traffic. And it was bad traffic. Like, it was super stressful because apparently everyone wanted to go to the mall, and we had forgotten kind of how far it is. Like, it's about a half-hour drive if you're not getting on the interstate. And the thing is, like, even if we had gotten on the interstate, I don't think it would have gone much faster because it backed up after that, like after we would have had to get it off anyway. So traffic was all backed up, and it was just kind of a zoo, but we made it up there, and we got Christmas presents bought that needed to be bought and all of that. So, and it was fun. Like, the weather was still pretty nice. Like, it's still pretty warm here. Like, I'm told that this is not normal weather, but I am still like, I want winter. Like, I want to be able to wear my winter coat. So, you know, we got up there and we did all that, and that was nice and all. And then on the way back, we stopped at a Hobby Lobby because I've only been to Hobby Lobby a couple times back up in Minnesota, and I remember them having a different selection of yarn than like what's at Michael's or Joann Fabrics. So I was like, okay, let's go to Hobby Lobby since we're already up here and traffic's moving super slow anyway. Let's go ahead and go. And I went in and I was really disappointed because they really didn't have anything in terms of sock yarn. Like, I was like, ugh, this is disappointing. So I'll probably never go back there again. But yeah, so that's that. And then And then I've just been working furiously on trying to get these socks done because, like I said, I want to try and get them done before Christmas, but we'll see. Um, we're going home for the holidays, but so next week's podcast I think will maybe be filmed somewhere else. You might get a different background because I'll be filming wherever it is that I am and have time to film, because I just want to make sure that it's filmed ahead of time so that I don't have to worry about like filming and editing and uploading. All I have to do is edit and upload. So still expect the episode to be up next Wednesday, but yeah, the background might be a little bit different. But yeah, I think that's about it. I'm super excited to go home. You know, I'm not necessarily homesick, I would say, but I'm excited to go home, and I miss my family and all of that. So it will be nice to, go home and see them for the holidays and all. Because this might be the last year that it's easy. My father's thinking about moving this summer to kind of back to his hometown. Because he has a lot of friends there and his family's there and stuff. So this might be the last Christmas that it's easy to get everyone in one place. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm excited to go home. I'm excited to see my parents and my brothers and Wesley's family and some of my friends and stuff. So it's gonna be very busy because we're not home for that long, but gonna make it happen. And I will be flying with my knitting needles, with metal knitting needles, and I will report back on how that goes. But the TSA says that it's okay, and I've heard that mostly it's an issue with international travel, and since we're only traveling domestically, I'm not too concerned about it. But I'm also just going to make sure that, you know what, if they take them away, they take them away, and I'm not going to be a crank about it. It's just, that's how it goes sometimes. I'm going to make sure that I don't have any important knitting on them, or I will take the knitting off of them before I let them confiscate them. But yeah, if they take them away, they take them away, and that's how it goes. But I don't think that's going to happen. So, but I'll report back on how that goes. And I think that's going to be it for this week. I just bumped over an hour, so yeah. So that's a lot of time talking. It's about lunchtime here, so I'm going to fix myself some lunch, and then I have to go run some errands, get things ready. I have to pack at some point. I don't know when that's going to happen, but at some point I should probably pack, maybe. We'll see. But yeah, my hope is to finish up, at least get this sock pretty much finished up by the end of the day today, or at least get to the ribbing, I think, on it. And yeah. So yeah, I guess I will see you guys next week. Thanks for joining me, and if you've made it this far, thank you. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.